It never ceases to amaze me how many Americans know little or nothing about the wonderful country we live in. Did you know that Francis Scott Key wrote the Star-Spangled Banner as a poem on September 14, 1814, and was originally titled The Defense of Fort McHenry?
To think about it was like a movie.
It's a very unique community. The last place you'd expect.
Key was a prisoner aboard a British ship in Baltimore Harbor during the War of 1812. After a night of bombardments by the British on Fort McHenry, at daybreak, Key spied the American flag still flying over the fort. Thus, the birth of this poem, and many years later, in the 20th century, President Herbert Hoover signed the declaration that made it our national anthem. We celebrate our freedom from England on July 4th, but it was on July 2nd, 1776, that representatives of the 13 original British colonies gathered in Philadelphia and signed a document we now celebrate as the Declaration of Independence. It has sometimes been confused with the U.S. Constitution. The complete signing did not take place until August 19, when we were in the second year of our war with England to secure us an independent nation. Actually, the American Revolution began on April 19, 1775, at Lexington and Concord, and hostilities did not end until British defeat at Yorktown on October 19, 1781. The war did not officially end, however, until the Treaty of Paris on November 30th, 1782. On July 4th, 1777, while we were still in the midst of our war for independence, the following article, dated July 5th, 1777, appeared in America's oldest existing newspaper, the Virginia Gazette. It reads, "Yesterday, the 4th of July, being the anniversary of the independence of the United States of America, was celebrated in this city with demonstration of joy and festivity. About noon, all armed ships and galleys in the river were drawn up before the city, with the colors of the United States and streamers displayed. At 1 o'clock, the yards being properly manned, they began the celebration of the day by a discharge of 13 cannons from each of the ships, and one from each of the 13 galleys, in honor of the 13 United States." And then there was what has become known as the fiasco of July 4th, 1777. The Continental Army regiment stationed upstate New York was drunk with freedom and celebrating their liberty, totally unaware that the British Army had marched down from Canada and had them surrounded from the nearby hills. The following morning, American soldiers with hangovers awoke to a British barrage against their position. The commanding general ordered an evacuation with the coming of night. Well, July 4th is synonymous with American independence. one of the United States founding fathers felt that July 2nd was a more appropriate date to celebrate the colony's declaration of independence from Great Britain. John Adams, who would serve as the second president of the United States, felt July 2nd was the correct date to celebrate the colony's independence, and even protested July 4th by refusing invitations to appear at events on that day during his lifetime. Adams' contention dates back to June 7, 1776, when Richard Henry Lee, the Virginia delegate of the Continental Congress, first introduced a motion calling for the colonies to declare their independence. Voting on Lee's motion was postponed, though a five-man committee consisting of Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, Robert R. Livingston, and Roger Sherman was appointed to draft a statement justifying independence from Great Britain. Lee's motion was approved on July 2nd, and Adams even wrote his wife, Abigail. That day would be celebrated as the anniversary of the colony's independence for many years to come. But that was not to be, as American independence is instead celebrated on July 4th, the day the Continental Congress formally adopted the Declaration of Independence. The 4th of July has been a federal holiday since 1941, though that may seem like a long time for the country to wait to celebrate the independence it declared in 1776. The tradition of the 4th of July, often referred to as Independence Day, dates back to the dawn of the American Revolution and the adoption of the Declaration of Independence on July 4th, 1776. Since then, July 4th has been recognized as the dawn of American independence, and celebrations that included fireworks and parades can be traced back to the 18th century. On July 4th, 1777, the city of Philadelphia, which would become the first capital of the United States of America, held the first commemoration of American independence, and exactly 1 year later, George Washington ordered that all of his soldiers be offered double rations of rum to commemorate the anniversary. In 1781, Massachusetts was the first state to make July 4th an official state holiday, and the day was actually declared a federal holiday by the U.S. Congress in 1870. However, that declaration did not grant a paid holiday to federal employees. That benefit came in 1941, which is why that year is now recognized as the first year when the 4th of July officially became a federal holiday. And like yours truly, perhaps you learned a little more here as to how and why we have celebrated a 4th of July. The facts of life often belie the recollections.